The law is perfected in law. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, we read, "The law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ." Grace means the power to rise spiritually. Truth means the experience of divine realities, not the application of the outer world of that inner experience. Divine love is the soul's experience of oneness with God. Kindness is the human manifestation of that love. Grace is deeper than the mere kindness. Wisdom is a divine experience. Justice to all is a human law, though divinely inspired. If it follows as a consequence of the experience of wisdom, truth goes deeper than mere justice. While following the law, we should strive always to trace it back to its origins in the vision of God. Therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita urges the devotee not to be satisfied with spiritual precepts alone, but to go beyond them to the direct inner experience of truth. In the 18th chapter of that great scripture, he says, "Nigh be once more. Take my last word, my utmost meaning have. Precious thou art to me. Right well, beloved, listen, I tell thee for thy comfort this. Give me thy heart, adore me, serve me, cling in faith and love and reverence to me. So shalt thou come to me, I promise true, for thou art sweet to me. And let go those rights and writ duties, fly to me alone, make me thy single refuge. I will free thy soul from all its sins, be a good cheer." Thus, though through holy scriptures God has spoken to mankind. It wasn't easy for me today to decide from what string I should expose this discourse, but listening to the affirmation, I actually decided to start from today's world, the world where we are today. Because it is not easy to live in this world feeling so insecure. If we search for security in the world, it is very difficult to find it. We are in a moment of human history where you can listen about wars in every part of the world, conflicts, violence. And recently we have even a possible pandemic of this insecurity for our health. People going around with masks because they can't breathe freely. With the this coronavirus that is expanding. The message that we receive through this reading today is that we can feel ourselves more protected and at ease if we are where laws exist that protect the rights of people. And this is true. The base of whatever society is linked to these laws that create protection. But what this reading is saying is, and this is true also for the spiritual path, is that there is not either or. It's not laws and regulations and then love on the other side, but it is to intake of secure base of precepts that we know that are true and that we want to live ever more in our life. Swami Kriyananda, there is a beautiful book in which he writes more, expands these themes. I don't know if it's in Italian. He talks about the story of the Jewish people. He talks about the fact that they had so many difficulties in their history. And he starts when when they were slaves in Egypt, and we know that they managed to escape and to arrive in a desert where they were for many years, and this also has an important spiritual meaning. And then when Moses went to received the laws of the 10 Commandments, Swami says in that book that they had decided when they were leaving Egypt that they would have lived the laws of their religion. This was very clear for them. And it was one point of connection between all these tribes. When they arrived, when these 10 Commandments arrived, it was a moment where they had to decide if they wanted to live this message from God, what had arrived to Moses, and to receive this message to be able to prepare themselves in a deeper spiritual way, living these commandments, these laws, as much as possible in their life. And I want to read them, remind you. I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt have no other God before me. Thou shalt not have unto thee any graven image. Thou shalt not take the name of Lord thy God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not murder, shalt not commit adultery, shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet neighbor's house, or neighbor's wife, neighbor's slaves, animals, or anything else that your neighbor has. It's interesting to see how the difference of how it is written between the both languages. But these are guidelines to live in a good way together. It is like a guide in a community guide. We here have a month and a year of living discipleship to help people understand what it means to live together between other people in a community, and how does living together, what does it mean to bring harmony in a group. And this is what God was trying to give to the Jewish people in a practical way. But at this point, God is always also starting to give something that is very important to live in a closer to God. And they tried to live this for hundreds of years, and this is why they were, the Jewish people say they were chosen by God, because they were trying to live in a more attuned way with God, and they knew that the Messiah would have arrived, that most of the Jewish people thought he was going to be a hero or a warrior that was going to save them from slavery, now against Romans. But Jesus came to bring a message that it's the next message for their growth, to be able to live even more in God. And this is something that happens when you're living in the laws. Swami Kirtani and Yogananda talk about the risk of organizations and of institutions. An organization has normally its own laws and regulations and guidelines, like we have in Ananda. If one attaches to these guidelines and laws and thinks that this is where we have to concentrate and how we have to live, there is the risk that each one can interpret in a different way the law or the guideline, and this creates tension and disharmony between the people that are trying to live these laws. But not only that, it creates in us a sense of, I know exactly what I have to do because it's written here. But we know that life is not like this. The life gives us many challenges between different people and situations that help us understand that there is something else that we have to live well with ourselves and with others. And when Christ arrived with his message without laws, but his message was to love God with all your body, with your mind, with your soul, and with your strength. But this is not like the laws of the Jews. They were not all, but some were blocked in the laws and were not able to receive this message of Jesus. So they did not feel that Jesus was the Messiah because he was not following the laws of their tradition. And this is also for us. Jesus comes with one message, that God is not a judge. That judges every sin. But that God is love. God is a God of love. And he loves you exactly the same, whatever you do. He probably doesn't love what you do if it's not good, but he loves you unconditionally and doesn't judge you. This wasn't easy for the people to understand and to accept this message. And there were some that were ready for this message. So Jesus had thousands of people, his apostles and his disciples, that felt in the heart that this was what I am seeking in my life. And for each of us, when we have read the autobiography of a yogi, or when we have heard the first time the interpretation of Yogananda on the words of Jesus, or we have listened to or read Swami Kriyananda about this, we have probably felt an answer that of a question, an internal question, personal question, that there has to be a different way to see things, that we should not live the laws and regulations of the society or of our church. There is something that is missing, and this is what Jesus has brought, and it's what the masters of our path have brought again. Swami said that Yogananda came to bring the message of the importance of the inner communion with God, of being able to communicate and feel and live the presence of God, his love, his joy inside, in ourselves. And this is the important point of this lecture today, that law finds its completeness in love. And when love manages what is right to do, when it's love that guides inside of us, in our hearts, in this community, the people that guide the different aspects, this is the most important thing. And this is the important thing for someone that guides a country, but not always it's so. So what happens often is that living at the beginning, living the rules of the spiritual path, we have done the same thing. We have the rules to meditate in a better way, to be able to live more in love, in the love and in the light. When you have that strong base of how you should live in a good way, then we can be ready for what is and that is the completing the guidelines, and that is the expression of love in everything that we do. This is our challenge today, because there are many things today. Many people say we should hate others. We should think badly of someone because they have a different religion of ours. If we continue living with with this consciousness, we will not be happy, truly happy, and truly able to arrive where God and the Masters want us to arrive where our soul wants us to arrive. That is unity with God. And the unity with God is not possible if we have whatever thought of separation between each other. And this is the true challenge. When the news comes, whatever arrives to us talks so much about separation, about why these people are less than or are not good enough. We must reinforce our capacity of centering ourselves, going inward, finding that awareness, that knowledge of what is the right thing. So this is the message that Swamiji is giving us about the discourse of today's discourse. If we think that we can arrive to the point of unity with God and to know the love of God, if we can accept the God that is in us, is actually in everyone, and that our Father is the Father of everyone, that the God, a God that loves us and that wants that we arrive to our true home in Him, is the same for everyone, even for those that say, no, my God is a different one. My God is Allah, my God has a different name. But the truth, the real truth, is that God is one. In the reading today, we also listened the words from Krishna. It is interesting that at the end, in the Bhagavad Gita, that talks about, that is where God communicates to Arjuna and tells each one of us what is needed to arrive to God. I would like to finish by reading again these words. And I would ask you to close your eyes and to know that it is God that is talking to each one of us. And that this is what we want to search for in our everyday life, in our spiritual life, to be able to live. And you can feel here that God says, don't attach yourself to rituals and to words, but attach yourself to me. And this is what we want to do. God says, Krishna says, nay, but once more, take my last word, my utmost meaning have. Precious thou art to me. Right, well beloved. Listen, listen. I tell thee for thy comfort this. Give me thy heart. Adore me. Serve me. Cling in faith and love and reverence to me. Cling in faith and love and reverence to me. So shalt thou come to me, I promise, true, for thou art sweet to me. And let go those rights and writ duties. Fly to me alone. Make me thy single refuge. I will free thy soul from all its sins. Be of good cheer. Swami Kriyananda dice che non è that it's not to choose one or the other, but to know that what gives us security and freedom is a base, and it's important, but we should not be dependent of a set of rules or a community or a church or whatever organization. Don't be super dependent. Swamiji said to serve and give instead of taking from an organization. So don't think to go to a church because of what it gives you, but give yourself love to God. Give to the people that are around you in that church. And to understand that developing your inner relation with God, communicating interiorly every day, and if possible every moment with God, is what really creates then the organization will take you upward towards God. And we finish with the words of Master. The time for knowing God has come. This is the moment in which each one of us can do the next step toward this knowledge of God.
seeing thee, my Lord, will my days fly away. Without seeing thee, my Lord,